So without further ado, my name is Christina, and I'm very happy to welcome all of you to today's Green Team session. I already saw many familiar faces in the Zoom room, but some of you might be joining for the first time. So we thought that it might be good to start off with a short introduction of the Green Team, what we are, what we want to achieve, and what's going to happen today in this workshop. So the Green Team is an initiative of students which wants to empower students to meaningfully communicate ideas that facilitate behavioral changes in people to build a sustainable world. I know, a long sentence, but mainly our idea is to bring people together and encourage peer-to-peer learning. We want to share our thoughts and opinions on different topics surrounding the big topic of sustainability. And therefore, our goal is to empower each other, create meaningful connections, and together design a sustainable tomorrow. We are currently hosting monthly talks and workshops in different areas of the topic sustainability. And so far, we have had many different talks already. All speakers were from our cohort, the SRM Master Program of 2021. In previous sessions, we talked about a whole variety of different topics, like how can you contribute to be more sustainable, different topics surrounding the big topic of plastics. We also talked about sustainable diets and agriculture, and we even touched sustainable economies and different models and approaches like circular economy and sharing economy. And if this sounds interesting to you, and maybe you think, oh, I also have a interest in a specific topic which you want to share with all of us, always feel free to reach out and say, well, I have an interesting topic I want to talk about. Can I give a talk? And we assure you, we probably will not say no. So whenever you feel like giving a talk, let us know and we can arrange something for the future. So now in the last few weeks, a lot has changed inside of the Green Team, and the team grew, and we're happy to announce that 4 new members joined the initiative. For those of you who have already attended one of our previous meetings, you probably know that Veena and Valentina founded the initiative last year and did a really good job with growing the team, so to say. And we're happy to announce that Hassal, Bettina, Adrian, and I joined the team in the last month. Basically, Hassal will support the Green Team in platform development. Bettina is doing a lot of work in content editing and research. And Adrian is the guy who did send out all the kindly reminders for today's session to make sure that you don't miss out on today's workshop. And as you might have already guessed from me talking to you in the last few minutes, my name is Christina, and I'm going to support Veena and Valentina in creation and live sessions coordination. So now that you know what the Green Team is and who we are, we're going to jump into today's workshop. The agenda for today is going to start with a quick opening activity. After that, our today's speakers, Veena and Valentina, will share their inspiring sustainability stories and tell you a little bit more about the framework of purpose and sustainability. After that, we're going to switch to the interactive part of today's session, but we will explain how it works later on during the meeting. We will end the workshop with a short discussion and another round of questions, and we will also ask you a little bit of interests in upcoming topics. So without further ado, I would say we start with our first activity. Now you should be able to see a poll in Zoom, because as the people who have already attended before know, we like to start our sessions with a quick question round. So first of all, I would like to know, how are you all feeling today? I hope it works and you all see the poll. Okay, some people have already answered. I think you can also answer already the second question, because we are really interested in what your expectations are for today. Okay, I think there's only one person missing. So maybe a few seconds more to answer. And I think we can end the poll. So a lot of you are happy and motivated. That's always good to hear. And if we believe the poll, a lot of you are interested in getting to know something new. And I guess everybody's interested to hear more about Valentina and Veena. So I would suggest, without further ado, I would hand over the word to both of them, and they will start with the session.
Thank you, Christina. Okay. Valentina, if you move on to the next slide, I will start explaining the slides and present what we had prepared for them. Perfect. Hello, everybody. As Chrissy already introduced us, my name is Veena and my colleague Valentina. Together today, we're going to talk a little bit about ourselves. It may seem a little narcissistic, but we promise we'll not talk too much about us, but rather about our life, the reflections, and how we found our purpose in sustainability. But before I go into it, I want to give you an analogy because it really resonated with us a lot. You know how we take resolutions for New Year's. We're super excited about it. We are, on the 31st of December, we think, okay, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this for the rest of the year. Let's say I'm going to start fitness and I'm going to work out every day. And I'm excited for the first 10 days. And the next 10 days, I don't find time for it. And after that, I totally forgot about it. So, please correct me if I'm wrong, but a lot of times what happens is we watch something related to sustainability. There's a fact or a video, we watch a documentary, and so we're super excited. We say, shit, we need to do something about this. And what happens is we are excited and we really want to do something about it, but somehow, maybe day one, it's possible day two, we think about it, but after a few days, it's not sticking to us because we haven't started making it a part of our purpose, right? So this is what we want to talk about to you today. I know I took a minute talking about this analogy and I'm going to overshoot by a minute, but I really wanted to tell this because it, I thought it'll really give you a context as to what we're going to say. So what we're going to do is use our story as ordinary people, just like everybody else, how we found our purpose in sustainability and how probably you're doing fantastic things already in the space, but you don't know how to acknowledge yourself for the work you're doing, and also how you could possibly make it even better in the coming days for yourself. So the slide says my name again. Okay, so I personally believe in spreading positivity. At least that's what I want to do. And my favorite thing to do is actually to take one problem at a time and really find fun and interesting and accessible solutions for it. I'm going to go to my story now. I'm from India, south of India, so that's why we expanded the map. I'm from two cities. So I was born in the city of Coimbatore, which is the top picture. And then I moved to the city of Chennai, which is the picture at the bottom, both overcrowded, both same kind of people. So that's typically where I come from. What I want to tell you is how I was able to, through my journey, find reasons to embrace sustainability and make it my behavior. Having said this, it's all going to start with a picture that is going to come next. There are two women in this picture, excluding me. That's my mother and my grandmother. And it all started with them for me. So growing up in a very middle-class Indian family, you will learn a lot of things about sustainability. Because for us, sustainability is not about really, saving resources because we went to university, studied about resource management, no. But for us, because money is limited, often saving resources was equal to saving money. So we were always taught to make sure that we do not waste anything, like we eat the last particle of food on our plate, we don't throw anything away, we wear clothes for a very long time, which you will see in the next picture. So that's me in the center, unassumingly sitting there. So that's a frock. I'm wearing a frock that my mother stitched for me. And I continued to wear it for 10 more years after this picture was taken. And after I wore it for 10 more years, my cousins wore it. And then I think it became a rag in our kitchen. And after which I think we did throw it into the compost. But what I'm trying to tell here is that we dearly used resources for a very long time. And this was not just about this particular dress that I'm talking about. In general, I used the same uniform as my mother because we both went to the same school. And we used waste in the house for many different things, like, the garden waste went into boiling water, and let's say the kitchen waste turned into compost. This has been the way of life for us. So regular student, I went, once I was done with school, I went to fashion school. You see a couple of things I made, the knickers and some dresses after that. So I learned how to design and dress, make clothes. After which I thought, okay, when in fashion school, I learned about the unsustainable side of fashion, how it is really unethical and exploiting human beings as well as resources. So then I went to New York City. I thought, okay, that is the fashion capital, one of the fashion capitals of the world. So let me go there, study about sustainable fashion and ethical fashion, because there was a lot of work going on over there. I studied a lot and I was super inspired. And then I got back to India and there was no way for me to implement any of those things. So I started working in a regular fashion company. And oh boy, I hated it. I hated it so much because I had to meaninglessly meet targets every day and just focus on sales. Because I was a buyer, I just had to make sure that we sell a lot of clothes. And it was really hard for me to continue. So I decided I'm just going to quit my job. I had to do that. And once I did that, I thought, okay, I have a lot of time. And I realized I wanted to do something in sustainability. I clearly did not know what I wanted to do. So I thought, okay, I have a lot of time. Let me start doing something at home. So these are some of the reasons that came to me when I started embracing sustainability. And we're going to look at them one by one. So the first point I had mentioned was staying connected to my roots. This was actually the most important thing to me, to be honest, because I told you a little bit about my roots and about Indian culture and how it is sustainability is a part of our, upbringing. And as a person that I am who wants to stay connected to my roots, it was super simple. If I wanted to stay connected to my roots, that was my reason to embrace sustainability. So if you're somebody who likes to go back to your roots and stay connected, then that is your reason. For example, I made paper bags at home. I grew my own vegetables and herbs and sun-dried them and stored them for a longer time. Kitchen waste, garden waste, everything was composted. Compost was actually put to use. I even did a lot of dyeing, natural dyeing, if you see, like me experimenting and actually making my own clothes, and then use the dye later to actually make inks and watercolors. So all of this, I used to do it as a child as well. But as I grew up, for me, going back to those, connecting with my roots, connecting with those memories, that was my reason to go back and embrace sustainability. So that's what I wanted to say over here. Now I'm going to go to the next part. Personal health. That was my second reason for embracing sustainability. I'm going to give another example over here. So if you look at somebody using a plastic water bottle, drinking water from that, and you go and tell them, hey, please do not, why do you use a plastic water bottle? It's not good for the health of the environment. It's not good for the ecosystem. So that's scenario one. But on another note, what if you go to that person and say, hey, if you drink water from this plastic water bottle, it is actually not good for your health, because there is, there are chances that this polymer is really disintegrating. I don't know the facts behind it yet, but what I want to say is, if you appeal to somebody's personal health maybe that becomes, that's easier for them to embrace sustainability, because often we all don't care about the earth the same way, and that's totally fine. We can't really keep them away because they don't care about it the way we care about it, but we all care about ourselves, and if we can probably highlight that to them, that becomes their reason to embrace sustainability. So I started doing this. I started making my own tooth powder. I started buying vegetables from the farms, eating like organic vegetables, sticking to local lentils and plant-based proteins, which are very native to India. So yeah, these were some of the things that I was doing, and I was doing this at an individual level, right? So once I was good at this, I realized I'm able to do this because I have a lot of time. I quit my job. But those who do not have the time for it, those who have a demanding job, demanding day, what can they do? How can they contribute? So I wanted to use the research that I had done, the effort that I put into finding the things, and take it to the people. And so from being an individual, I became an organization. So I started my own business where I created essentials, all of them repurposed from waste itself. So I redesigned products in such a way that the supply chain was redesigned so that you were really trying to make a difference. So that was my way of going to the community. Now, interestingly, what happened is while I was doing this, so that I had quit my job. I'm also a founder of my own company with zero savings. So, I had to save money because there was no other way to do this. So it was, again, very easy for me. Saving money became my reason to embrace sustainability, because if you want to save money, you're not going to buy things. And if you're not buying things, you're consuming less, which means resources are not overutilized. So it was such a simple factor for me. But one of the most important and the big reflections that I had in this entire process is that if you really pour your passion into something and you really want to make, you end up making things fun, accessible, and easy for everybody to relate with, then you can actually make a big difference. Coming back, now I told you about individual level, organization level. I wanted to go to the community, and I wanted to say that, this whole thing that I'm talking about, low waste and trying to repurpose and reinvent, all that that's not possible just in an individual level, but I also wanted to show that it can be done at a community level. And that's where my wedding comes to play. So this is a picture of me from my wedding day. And my wedding was a zero waste ceremony. It had 700 guests, but we had zero trash that went into landfills. So there were a lot of lessons I learned from this, and there is a video over here. We will later put the link to the video on YouTube and send it to you. It's just that I think I am already overshooting my time, so I'm not going to play the video right now. But what I want to tell from this story is that, yes, you can replicate this at a community level. You can definitely make it at scale. And the biggest reason that I got from my wedding experience is saying no to materialistic dependencies. If you see in the previous picture, the sari that I was wearing, the traditional Indian attire for the weddings, that is my grandmother's, and that is 60 to 70 years old, and I didn't buy something for myself on my own wedding. So what I really wanted to embrace was memories over material, and that really helped me say yes to sustainability and embrace it, because when I started making everything about memories, I didn't buy new things because I wanted new things. I bought new things because it made something to meant something to me. So that is the next level that I really had contributed to. Now, coming back to what I was talking about, fashion, I really like the field that I was in, and I wanted to continue to stay in this. So I thought, okay, what can I do? And then I started organizing a lot of thrift sales and secondhand sales, where I could actually start meeting the community, the people that are, who I'm reaching out to through Instagram and my company and everywhere else, and actually see what they think about sustainability or thrifting or changing their lifestyle. And this was one hell of an experience for me, because I was really able to understand that once you take it to the consumers in the right way, tell them the right things, and help them understand the process of what's happening better, they are interested in making a switch too. So all we have to do is learn to communicate it properly to them. So I'm going to go to the next slide, where again, lots of pictures of me, but what I'm trying to show here is repairing, reinventing, thrifting, borrowing, thinking about memories. So none of the clothes I'm wearing here is mine. It belongs to my mother, my grandmother, my mother-in-law, or something that existed in one form with somebody else, changed into another form when it came to me, like cutting, pasting, like upcycling, all of that. So it really helps you start getting creative as well. Having said that, so at this point of the story, I think they've also established that I was a local business owner. So it was important for me to make money, which meant that I had to start supporting local businesses too, because that is, I mean, I can't be a hypocrite. I can't buy from multinational companies and expect people to spend on me and say support local. But at the same time, I also like local businesses. So that became my reason to embrace sustainability, because if you start supporting local businesses, most often they are making things locally. So there's less a carbon footprint, and they're actually trying to create small things, not in a factory system, handmade and fair trade. And you're probably making more impact by buying their goods than from a bigger company, probably. So anyway, having said that as my reason, in this entire situation, one thing that I understood is there is a huge problem of consumption. And over here, yes, I mentioned fashion, but that's not all. It's in everything. And the problem is even bigger because we don't even know what we want and why we're buying some things. Having said that, university, business, the next reason that I found for embracing sustainability was actually making new friends. Because imagine people talking about caring for the environment, caring for the earth, and trying to be kinder to the animals and the ecosystem. Don't you think they will be kinder to the fellow human beings? Right? So it's just so simple to make amazing friends in this community, because they are great people. They are compassionate. They are kind. Like the pictures you see over here, they're all small business owners working in sustainability that I met through the work in my past few years. And I can say that they are going to be around for the rest of my life, because I've had fantastic time with them, learning from them every single day. So I think I'm going to stop my story over here. So those were my 6 reasons that I found to embrace sustainability and make it my purpose and continue to sustain it as a behavior in the whole process of the last 4 or 5 years for me. But what I want to say at the end is I took one problem at a time, because I know that there are a lot of problems related to sustainability, and it's not always easy for us to address them all at the same time. So maybe one word of reflection from my side is, maybe take one problem at a time, make it your purpose, work on it, and find a solution for it, and then move on to the next one. Because I can't say, oh, just work on one problem. No, that's not fair too, because we all like to work on many different things. So one problem at a time is, I think, the way that I approach life. With that, thank you so much for your attention. And I'm going to hand over the mic to Valentina, because she has an amazing story as well, very different from mine, but very similar to purpose. And ultimately, we want to talk, tell you about just this one thing, right? Purpose and sustainability. And that's what she's going to talk about too.
Thank you very much, Veena, for sharing your story and presenting it to us. And hi, everyone. My name is Valentina. And yeah, my motto in my life, it's always to experiment and look for new challenges. And that's something you will see in the story I'm going to share today. And what I'm going to do is that I'm going to highlight some moments in my journey related to discover this sustainable purpose. I am from Chile. I born and grew in the capital city of Santiago in Chile. And a bit about my background, I studied public administration and political science. And then I worked around 6 years in public and social innovation issues, mainly as a facilitator, as a consultant, project manager. And one of the roles I had during the last time was to be the coordinator of a collaboration network called Public Innovators Network, which at that time was with around 8,000 people. And what we wanted to do there was to connect public servants and to give them new tools, new methodologies, to visualize what they were doing. And because of this role, I had to travel a lot in different cities of my country in Chile. And this allowed me to learn about different cultures and realities and work with people. What we were doing there was mainly doing workshops based on approaches like the human-centered design, this service design, or innovation from people, active citizen participation, etc. And many of these workshops were focused in understanding the problems that people were facing, and then to find some solution for that. And something that caught my attention in that moment was that many of the problems that people was having were related with environmental issues. As I mentioned before, I also was working in different projects covering different kind of topics, and I would like to mention one of them, and it was related with the COP25. In 2018, Chile hosted this COP25, and one of the things we were doing was a citizen agenda, and I had the opportunity to work in this agenda, and the idea was to raise awareness in people about environment. And one of the projects we were doing there was to create a kind of kit for concrete actions for a more sustainable lifestyle. And this involved a lot of research, a lot of talking with people in the street, and also to discover that sometimes the access to the information for a more sustainable lifestyle was quite difficult for people. After this, I continued working for this like COP25 citizen agenda, but from another organization, more from the consultancy role. And the idea is to build a network of climate actors. That's something I'm still working. We're finishing one project here. So this is more or less like my general background. I wanted to highlight some things related with environment. But in this journey, at some point, I started thinking if this is really what I want to do. I was using a lot of hours of my day working on this, but I was not completely sure, like something was missing in what I was doing. And when I was working in environmental projects, I was super motivated doing that. So after a lot of thinking, finally, I decided I wanted to focus everything on environmental issues, but from another perspective. So because of this big purpose, is that then I started going more in depth with this and questioning my laboral and personal lifestyle. And from the laboral point of view, as I mentioned, I was traveling a lot. Because of the workshops, we were printing a lot of paper. So there were things that were not exactly very sustainable. And from my personal point of view, I started implementing some actions and habits in my daily life, like making my own products, my own makeup, mending my clothes, or buying bulk, composting, motivating my friends and relatives about these topics, etc. And because I wanted to do this good, I started also researching a lot. And here I discovered that it was super difficult to access to some information because there is a lot of information. Sometimes this is contradictory, and sometimes it's difficult to know what is exactly sustainable or what is really green. And there are many examples in relation with this. I just would like to give a couple of them related with my country. For example, with the electric cars, they look like a green solution in terms of mobility, but in order to do those cars, we need the extraction of lithium, and the extraction of lithium is causing a lot of damage, for example, in Chile. Or now we are consuming more vegetables, fruits, and the avocado, for example, is something that is causing serious problems with water scarcity in many cities of Chile. So my point here is that there are sometimes things that looks like green, but sometimes they are not like that. And what I wanted to do was to know exactly that what I was doing was positive for environment or not. So for that, I started talking with different people from different organizations. Then I saw that I needed to expand my view. So I moved to Germany in 2019. And here I follow having more conversation with more people to know what was happening here. And finally, I decided to join the Master in Sustainable Resource Management to go more in depth in these things. And in all this process, I knew I wanted to do something for the environment. That was my purpose. But the next step was what exactly I want to do in relation with this. And something that I have been seeing from my previous experiences is that there is a gap between the public sector and the citizenship. The information does not flow in the best way. And then researching more or looking things from the scientific things is that I also saw that there is a gap with the scientific world. Sometimes the things here are not directly directed to the public sector, and then the society or people don't understand what the scientific are saying. So what I thought is I don't want to be in any of these areas, but I would like to contribute being like in the middle, trying to connect these different things and trying to be like a bridge between these different sectors. And my question was, how can I do it? So thinking in how can I do this is that I thought, why not from visual language, design things or illustration? And maybe here this can sound a bit weird because I haven't said anything about this until now, but I always have been quite connected with visualization. I like to draw, I like the graphic design. I came from a family of artists too, so I have some connection with this. The last years I have been exploring the graphic facilitation too, and I think it's a good way to communicate things in a way that is understandable. So because of this experiment is that I started my own experimental project, which is called Biovisual, and the idea here is to translate some information, some data to something that is accessible or that is more clear or understandable. At least that's the idea. Tackling from one side the data information that answer the why we should do all of these things, but also super easy tips and recommendation on how to do it. And this is something that I am exploring right now. And also this has been super interesting for me because now I'm also working doing some illustration design things and or thinking how to transform content in something visual in other projects. So yeah, I'm like, I think this is the path I'm going to start having now. This is the point in which I'm right now. So based on all of the things I have been sharing with you today, is that I would like to conclude sharing some reflections. First is that I think it's super important to co-create our lives. And this means to have an open mind, integrate other views, other perspectives, to accept the feedback, talk with people, to have a collaborative approach, etc. Also to integrate the unexpected. And with this, I want to say to be open to change and to accept uncertainties. Never is going to be too late to do some change or to do something. In my case, I started with the public administration when I was 18. In my 30s, I decided to do something completely different. So I believe that we don't have to follow the logical, rational patterns that sometimes the society says we need to do. And this doesn't mean that what I did was a waste of time. Absolutely not. All of this is shaping what am I today. And I think the key thing is to be able to identify the value and the positive of everything we do, because in everything there is always something we can learn and we can grow from. Another important point is to do things with a sense and purpose. And this is related with the session we're having today. And when I say purpose, I mean that we should find our goal and go in that direction, and also to be consistent in that process. I know it's not always difficult, it's not always easy to do it, but I think it's important to align what we think with what we say and what we do. And in that way, we are more consistent with the purpose we have. And finally, if you want to do something for the environment or for the planet, and you think it's a positive impact, I would say, just do it. And if you don't know what to do, you can ask other people, you can ask for feedback. And for my side, I have been working a lot with methodologies that I learned from my previous job, and I have been applying this in my own life. So I know some methodologies and some tools, and if you would like to use some of them, because of time, we can share this today, but I will be happy to share it with you. You can contact me. I'm going to be super happy to share them, maybe to have a talk about this. So having said this, I would like to thank you all for your attention today. And now I would like to give the word to Veena, who is going to conceptualize what we have been saying, because although there are very different stories, we identify that there are some things that are common in our stories. This is something that she's going to talk about now.
Thank you, Valentina. And like I told you while we were doing the dry run, I love your story. And because I've heard it a lot of times too, I'm going to just wait for everybody else to give feedback towards the end of the session. But like Valentina had mentioned, through our stories, we were able to identify a few elements that we're keeping on, that we're repeating. And then when we started putting them together, we realized that it was happening in 5 stages for us. So the first stage was identifying the need and finding the need. Like, there are a lot of problems around, and until and unless you start being a part of it in between that problem, it's very hard for you to like really know the problem in that magnitude itself. For example, until Valentina started working in public sector and especially in environmental projects, she didn't know that she had a purpose in this. So the first part was identifying and like really finding that need. Once you find the need, the next is going to be to identify your purpose. So this is where you start understanding what exactly out of these problems that you've seen really concerns you and how you want to contribute to it, right? Because there are so many different ways to contribute to a single problem, and unless and until you really identify your purpose, how you connect with it, it's very hard to move forward there. So once we identify our purpose, I think the next most important habit is to actually make it into new habits, which is what we were talking about in our stories as well. So we had found a need and identified our purpose, and then we were trying to see how can we make it our habit, and what can I do, what can I learn, and how can I integrate it into my everyday routine so that I can make sure that I stick to this and I do this every single day, I breathe it, right? So once you identify and incorporate new habits, the next step is the most important step, and that is about sustaining behaviors. And this is where I think my analogy of New Year's resolution really plays, like you can resonate with that, because once you make anything a habit, the most difficult thing is actually how do you sustain it and how can you make it consistent and continue to do it forever. So that became our fourth stage of this framework. And once you've started doing that, you started embodying it, it's a part of you, it's something that you intimately believe in. What do you do next? I mean, as an individual, you're creating amazing impact, but what if you spread it to others? And what if you knew how to spread it to others, meaningfully communicate it to them? Because then you will be creating a manifold impact, and that's what we need to be doing today, when especially as people who are fighting for the ecosystem and working in sustainability. Now, 2 important things I want to mention with this framework is it looks linear at the moment, but it need not be linear in all our journeys, right? We can go from stage 1 to stage 5 and then come back to stage 2 too, and it's totally fine. So what I want to say is that there are, everybody has a different story, everybody has a different way of approaching things, everybody's life takes different turns, so you will be encountering these things, but in much different much different than what we did. The second thing is again relating to the linearity of this. It looks again linear and neat and really concise, but to be honest, in reality, it might be really chaotic like a web. So what I'm trying to say is that things can go front and back, it can be chaotic, but this is possibly some things that we identified as synergy when we started reflecting on our stories, and we really think this might also resonate with you as a framework. Having said this, what we're going to do next in the next section is get a little more interactive, because for the last 30 minutes or more, I think we've been talking. And so now we want to take you through a framework that we created, a little something that exists, but we've changed it a little to help with this 5 stages that I told you about. And Valentina is going to facilitate that interaction. I'm going to hand it over back to Valentina.
Thank you. Yes, as Veena said, now we are going to have a short activity. What we're going to do is that we're going to work in groups of 3 or 4. And for that, we're going to use Miro. First, I will give like some explanations about the activity, and then we are going to share the link with you. And what we're going to use is a tool that is called Theory of Change. The idea of the theory of change is to find priorities and also the goals we want to reach, and then all the path we need in order to reach these goals. This is a super simplified version of the theory of change, because usually there are many steps in between, but now we are going to visualize only 3 of them. For this activity, we're going to have around 25 minutes. And our recommendation when we are going to open the rooms, it's first you can present to the other ones. For example, I would say, oh, hi, I'm Valentina, I'm from Chile, I'm from the Master in Sustainable Resource Management, something like that. And after presenting yourself, you need to see what's the number of your breakout room. And for example, you can see that the number is number 4, then you go to the Miro, the canvas number 4. But if, for example, your Miro is your breakout room is a number 3, then you go to the canvas number 3 or etc. number 2. So first we're going to present to each other, then we're going to see the number, we're going to go to the canvas, and then we are going to work individually for 5 minutes to answer some questions. And then we are going to discuss the rest of the time, probably around 15 minutes, about the answers we have been given. So we can discuss about it. So we're going to present, we're going to go to the canvas, and then we're going to work individually in these questions that you can see here. First, we're going to write in relation to sustainability. What are the problems I'm trying to solve today, or what concerns me? And for example, in relation to my example or my story, I would say in relation to sustainability, I was concerned about how to connect the scientific world with the citizenship. Or maybe you are interested in water pollution and you can say, oh, I'm super interested in or super concerned about how to solve the water pollution in my country. Or maybe you are already doing something and you have a business and you're trying to reduce plastic, and then what you're doing today is to start a business focusing in reducing the plastic use, for example. So you are going to complete this here. And then you will move to the second question, which is related with the purpose. And the question is, what is the long-term change I want as my goal to contribute to this? And for example, in relation with the previous examples, I would say my purpose is, or my long-term change would be to be a bridge between different sectors, between the scientific world, the citizenship, and the public policy, for example. Or if you are interested in water, you can say, for example, my purpose is to contribute creating public policies in relation with water pollution. Or if you're already doing something like the example with the business in plastic, you can say, I want to be the main referent in stopping plastic use in the juice production, for example, in the production. So you are going to complete these 2 questions. And then we have a third question here, but we are not going to address it today because of time, but we recommend you to follow working on this in the future, because this is the most important part, because it's what you are going to do in order to move from today to what you want to do in the future. And the question is, what are the steps I need to take to bring about that change? So again, just to be clear what we're going to do, we're going to open the breakout rooms, we're going to present to each other, then you're going to go to the canvas, you can put your name here, each person select 1 row, 5 minutes to fill the answers individually, and then 15 minutes to share some reflections. You can discuss about the answers you give, you can change some things if you need. And here there is a space for notes in case there is something that you heard or listened that you think it's important and you don't want to forget it, you can write it here. Okay. So having said this, you also have the instruction here in case you need that, or you can go to the main session, you can ask us, etc. So having said this, we are going to open the breakout room session.
Okay, and I would suggest we go to our final part of today's session. And I think we started the session with some questions, so we thought it might be nice to end the session on 2 questions. And therefore, Valentina created another poll. You should be able to see it right now. And we would like to get your feedback first on today's session. I think Valentina and Veena put a lot of effort into it, so we thought we want to know if you thought the same and if you liked it and enjoyed it. We are always welcome for feedback. If you have ideas or even criticism, feel free to share. The second question is, which of the following topics would you be interested in one of our future sessions? As I said, we're constantly looking for speakers who might be interested to share some knowledge, experiences, or insights. So if you feel like you're the person for that, let us know. And yeah, I see that many of you have already voted. It looks like next session we might dig into the topics of sustainability into the developing world. Okay, thank you all for participating. I think now is the time to say thank you all for joining. I hope you enjoyed it as much as we did. Feel free to share our events in the future if you thought it was interesting. And as the others have already said, if there are any open questions, you can always contact us, and we try to arrange that sharing of links, which Val suggested. And from now on, I wish you a pleasant evening. Enjoy the good weather outside, and see you at one of our next sessions, I guess.